For a long time, I carried the weight of her departure like a failure I had caused. I replayed every moment, blaming myself, thinking maybe if I'd been bolder, more adventurous, less routine, she would have stayed. I tortured myself with thoughts of who I wasn't and what I could have been. But nearly a year later, when she resurfaced with words that shattered my illusion, I finally saw things clearly. It started with one line, spoken in a flat, tired voice. I think I want to see where things go with him. There was no hesitation, no remorse, just finality. That's when I knew. She hadn't come to a crossroads. She had long since chosen her path. I didn't plead. I didn't argue or ask her to reconsider. Her decision wasn't questioned. She had already left me emotionally long before those words were spoken. So I did the only thing that felt true in that moment. I walked away. No dramatic confrontation. No slammed doors or bitter exchanges. I packed what I needed in silence. She sat on the couch, her eyes glued to her phone, her fingers typing messages to the man who had stepped into my place. 5 years. We had shared 5 seasons, 5 birthdays. 5 times I held her hand while her world spun out from anxiety. I knew the scent that calmed her, the old lullaby that made her tear up in winter, the exact number of cracks on our bedroom wall that she would count when words failed her. But none of that mattered anymore. Some man she barely knew had become her new adventure, and I was no longer the destination. Walking out felt like waking from a long, comforting dream straight into a nightmare I never saw coming. For a week, I crashed on a friend's floor, unable to sleep, barely breathing, trying to make sense of how 5 years of love could be tossed aside for midnight texts and fresh flirtation. People like to say time heals all wounds, but time alone does nothing if you refuse to face the pain. At first, I didn't. I erased her from my phone, my social media, my photos. I avoided everyone who reminded me of her. I wasn't ready to hear that she might be doing well while I was unraveling. 3 weeks in, the grief turned into something sharper. Anger, not at her, at myself, for loving her harder than I loved myself, for ignoring the changes, the growing distance, the signs that I was no longer who she wanted. Slowly, I started to come back to life. Tiny steps. Getting out of bed before noon. Making meals, even if only for one. Picking up books instead of getting lost in mindless scrolling. By the 3rd month, I joined a gym, not to win her back, but to reclaim something in me I'd forgotten. Strength. At month 5, I went on a date. She was kind, smart, genuine. But halfway through the evening, I realized my heart wasn't ready. I thanked her, paid the check, and left feeling no guilt, just understanding. Healing isn't tidy or predictable. Some days you move forward. Others, you drown in memories. Both are part of the climb. By the 7th month, I stopped checking in on her online. I stopped wondering who she was with, where she might be. My breaths came easier. My world stopped spinning around someone who had already walked away. Then, on a Thursday in month 10, my phone buzzed as I came home from work. An unknown number. I nearly ignored it, but something told me to answer. Her voice, hesitant and low, filled the silence. "Hey, it's me." I froze. She asked to meet, just to talk. Every instinct said no. But a quieter part of me, the part that had already found peace, reminded me that hearing someone out doesn't mean going backward. I agreed. 1 hour, public place, no expectations. Seeing her again was surreal. She looked familiar, but different, smaller somehow, like life had chipped away at her edges. Her eyes were heavy, not from crying, but from regret she carried too long. She didn't drag it out. "I lied," she said, her voice cracking. I blinked. About him, about everything. She took a breath. He wasn't who I thought he was. I got caught up in the rush, mistook excitement for connection. I told myself I needed something more, but the truth is, I was lost. I thought you were too steady, too calm, but I see now you were my anchor. I left the one place I felt safe, chasing a storm. I didn't interrupt. I just watched her. She kept going. I wanted chaos because I didn't know how to feel alive in the quiet. But I see now you weren't boring. You were consistent, patient, and I threw that away. She reached out gently, her hand brushing the table. I'm sorry. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know it wasn't you. You love me well. I just didn't know how to accept it. I nodded slowly. I know, I said. I figured out somewhere between breaking and rebuilding. She cried quietly. I didn't. Not because I didn't feel, but because I'd already mourned. I stood. I hope you find peace, I told her. But I can't be the one you come back to when the newness fades. I worked too hard to heal. She stood too, wiping her face. I understand. As I turned to leave, I paused and looked back once more. You didn't lose me when you chose him, I said. You lost me when you stopped choosing us. Then I walked away, without bitterness, without weight, with peace. If someone has ever left you for a version of themselves that doesn't include you, you are not foolish. You are not weak. You are real. And if they return, you are not required to hand them the pieces you glued back together on your own. Sometimes the greatest closure is choosing yourself and walking forward whole